If you bought my embroidery kit, then you already have a canvas pouch to embroider on. You also have a pattern outline printed on a water-soluble stabilizer. If you're using a smaller embroidery pattern, find a place on the pouch that you like. The stabilizer acts like a sticker, so just peel off the back and stick the outline on the pouch. If you have the embroidery kit, you can skip the next chapter, where I explain how to print the outline on the water-soluble stabilizer. If you bought my embroidery pattern and would like to use it on a pouch, you can use Stick and Stitch by Sulky to print the pattern. When printing, select the same size as the stabilizer, letter size. Set print quality to draft to avoid the ink bleeding on the pouch when you put it in water. If you're using the same size of the pouch as me, set printing as true to size, or change the scale to fit your pouch. You can also use a tablet to trace the outline on the stabilizer. I'm using an app called Artist Lightbox that allows you to lock the screen so the outline doesn't move around while you trace it. Set the brightness to maximum and trace the pattern with a pencil or a light pen. I threaded the needle and made a knot on one end of the thread. The other end is loose. And now I'll just start embroidering the same way as I would on a fabric in a hoop. I'm using outline stitch to embroider the moon. My favorite stitches for embroidering on pouches and clothes are outline stitch, split stitch, satin stitch, long and short stitch, and French knots. When embroidering on wearable items, I keep the individual stitches to a maximum of 1 cm in length. If you want to fill in a larger area, don't use satin stitch as the stitches would be too long. Instead, use long and short stitch, where individual stitches are shorter. Once you've finished embroidering one of the elements, flip the pouch inside out to make a knot. Make a knot and use the needle to slide the knot as close to the fabric as possible. And trim the thread. Take a new thread and start embroidering the next element. If the embroidery will be displayed in a hoop, it doesn't really matter if you transfer the thread between different elements at the back side of the fabric. But when you're embroidering on pouches or clothes, after you finish embroidering each element, you have to make a knot and trim the thread. Then start a new thread for a new element, even if you're using the same thread color. This way, there won't be any long transfer threads inside of the pouch that could get tangled with the items in the pouch and damage the embroidery. So here, even though I'll be using the same color, I'll anchor the thread and then I'll embroider the next element with a new thread. I'm making a knot at the back and trimming the thread, and I'll repeat this process for each individual element of the embroidery. And that's how the finished embroidery looks like. To remove the stabilizer, you'll need a bowl or sink filled with cold water. Soak the pouch or garment in water and make sure you submerge the whole pouch. Leave the pouch in water for 10 minutes. After a couple of minutes, you can see that the stabilizer has started dissolving. You can use your finger to gently remove the remaining stabilizer. There's still some stabilizer left under the stitches, so I'll use running water to remove it. Open the tap and use the maximum water pressure to flush out any remaining stabilizer. Slide the pouch under the water a couple of times and make sure to remove all the stabilizer using the water pressure. Leave the pouch to dry overnight. And that's what the finished embroidery looks like. The next step is optional, but if you want, you can protect the back of the embroidery with a backing stabilizer. Flip the pouch inside out. Here's the back of the embroidery. As you can see, each element is separate. There are no threads going from one element to another. You can leave the embroidery like this, or use a backing stabilizer. Cut out a piece of the stabilizer big enough to cover all of the embroidery. Make sure that the corners are rounded. One side of the stabilizer is matte and the other side is glossy. Place the stabilizer on top of the stitches, glossy side facing the pouch. Use a thin piece of fabric as a protective layer between the stabilizer and the iron. Take the iron set to medium heat and gently iron the fabric on top of the stabilizer, making sure that you cover the whole area. Once you finish applying the backing stabilizer, the back side of the stitches is protected, and you can flip the pouch on the right side. And that's how the finished embroidery looks like.